What does gender bias and the adoption of electric vehicles have to do with each other? Well, they both require us to recognize that perceptions shaped many, many years ago are holding us back. And they both require us to seriously consider the values and attributes that exist today in diversity and e-mobility. I've worked in the motor industry for 16 years across 3 different brands, one of which was a commercial vehicles brand, traditionally a very masculine environment. I'm currently the head of marketing, product, and PR at a premium German brand. It's the one that starts with an A. And we've just launched a full range of electric vehicles in South Africa. Having reached this point in my career, I'm often approached by people inside the industry and outside, and I'm congratulated for making it into a position of influence, a management position within this industry. I'm also told I would make a great role model for young girls and young women wanting to work in male-dominated industries. And whilst I really appreciate the compliment and how it's intended, I find that a compliment based on my gender is misplaced. I find that that conversation is very outdated and old-fashioned. The hard work and dedication to learning that I have put into my career to get me to this point, and what I've managed to achieve, is not in spite of my gender or because of my gender. I'd like to be recognized for my credentials. If I had held on to the perception that I was out of place in the industry I was working in, then how much energy would I have lost in terms of pushing the industry forward or pushing the boundaries of my discipline? If my achievements are viewed through the lens of gender, it places emphasis on the assumption that it is unusual for a woman to succeed in the automotive industry. We shouldn't be responding in the same way to these situations as we have been for the last 100 years. This view no longer serves us. It's really important that we reframe the way we see things so that we can live our desired future state now. Rather than be surprised when we are faced with elements of the future we want, we should be surprised when they're absent. And the future I want is one where gender is irrelevant to an individual's contribution. Now, I choose to live that future state today, every day. I see a very interesting parallel between what I've shared with you now and the way people respond when I speak to them about electric vehicles. Let's go back. Over a century ago, the automotive industry faced the same crossroads that we're at right now. Were we going to use internal combustion engines to power vehicles, or were we going to use electric power? Interestingly, the very same obstacles we face today are what we faced back then. Access to electricity in the early 1900s was limited. Range of a vehicle was extended when you're able to carry fuel with you in a container. And of course, the charging infrastructure outside of big cities was very limited. Does any of this sound familiar? And here we are again. So internal combustion engines have served us, but we're further down this path. We're wiser. We know the shortcomings of internal combustion engines and the importance of renewable energy. Sustainability has become as important as productivity, if not more so. Technology and connectivity has gone far beyond anything we could have imagined a century ago. So now, what perceptions are we going to allow to guide our decision? Okay, it's no secret that in South Africa, we have issues regarding reliable electricity supply. And people view the adoption of electric vehicles through the lenses of interrupted power supply, range anxiety, charge anxiety, and let's be honest, cost. But why let the challenges of 100 years ago affect what we choose to do today when the world is a very different place? Why hold on to the view that electric vehicles are impractical? Why not reframe our assumptions and attitudes and live our desired future state today? What if vehicles were viewed through the lens of design, performance, efficiencies, and digitalization possibilities that exist when you use battery power? Once you do that, when you really consider those aspects, then driving anything other than electric vehicles seems very old-fashioned and very outdated. As a marketing professional, I feel that I have an incredibly powerful opportunity and a responsibility to shape people's behavior in an ethical way for lasting positive change. I believe that I can encourage people to live the future state made possible by electric mobility and renewable energy. It's no longer enough to point to a future, but still talk about the perceptions that we hold today and in the past. Marketing has to see beyond the obstacles and change the conversation from one that frames electric vehicles as surprising or unusual to being the obvious next step. We need to reframe what makes vehicles exciting, to enable people to see beyond the challenges, to take the next steps to that future. Focus matters to change perceptions. I am not a successful female executive in a male-dominated automotive industry. I am a successful executive in the motor industry. And electric vehicles are not a compromise in how we drive and enjoy mobility. They are the discerning next step in design and performance in an electronic and digital age. Changing the way we speak about these things is key to shifting the movement in both industries, in terms of gender bias and in terms of the automotive industry. 2 decades ago, it may have been very unusual to see a female in a position of influence and leadership in the automotive industry. 2 decades ago, it may have been very unusual to trade in our V10 supercars for silent grand tourers that accelerate to 100 kilometers an hour at 3.3 seconds. But here we are. We faced this decision before. But now we are better educated, we are more open to change, and we have all the innovations and technology available to us to take the motor industry into the next century. Are you ready to live this future mindset today? Thank you. Thank you.